Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today, courtesy of YouTube and Twitch superstar Pointy Head Jedi, we're going to be taking a look at the Issei. Is it a battleship? Is it an aircraft carrier? Yes. Just to make things clear right from the start, I don't know when the ship is going to be released. I don't know how this ship is going to be released. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be available in the tech tree, but whether or not it's going to cost coal, steel or gold, I have absolutely no idea. So questions like, is this ship going to be worth it, are completely irrelevant at the moment, because we have no idea what this ship is going to cost. The fact that it is tier 6, however, would probably indicate that at some point it's going to be on sale in the premium shop, either for gold or cold hard cash, but exactly how much of either is anybody's guess. The Issei and her sister ship, the Hyuga, did exist. They were the two ships of the Issei class of dreadnought. Constructed in World War I, but not seeing any service in World War I, both the Issei and her sister ship were extensively modernised and upgraded during refits both in 1928 and 1934. Despite these upgrades, however, by the time of the outbreak of the Pacific War, these two ships were pretty much considered obsolete as battleships. But then in mid-1942, after the disastrous loss of 4 Japanese aircraft carriers and most of their flight groups during the Battle of Midway, plans were made to turn Issei and Hyuga into full aircraft carriers. Unfortunately, at this stage of the war, Japan didn't have the money, and more importantly the time, to complete these plans, so the decision was made instead to convert them into hybrid aircraft carriers, as you can see here. The two aft 14-inch gun turrets were removed, leaving the ships with 8 14-inch guns in 4 turrets midships and forward, and the rear deck was converted to a combination hangar and flight deck. The problem was that with these modifications, the flight deck at the rear wasn't long enough to either launch or recover aircraft in the way that aircraft carriers normally did. To overcome this issue, Issei was fitted with 12 Yokosuka D4Y Suisei dive bombers, equipped with floats, and with rocket-assisted takeoff, which would be launched from catapults, return to the Issei after completing their mission, landing on the sea next to her, and would then be winched back on board using cranes. And here you can see that rocket-assisted takeoff in action. These things are fast. They were actually the fastest dive bombers of World War II, and even faster with the rocket-assisted takeoff. They had a top speed of 550 kilometers per hour. You know how in tanks it's common to refer to the power-to-weight ratio in terms of horsepower per ton? The D4Y had a power-to-weight ratio of 15 horsepower per pound. And it's the ridiculous speed of these aircraft that is the only thing that really makes the Issei practical to use as a hybrid battleship carrier here in World of Warships. You see, my initial concern when I heard that these things were coming was, well, how's that going to work? I mean, how can that be practical? What's going to happen to your battleship when you're controlling the aircraft? Because, you know, you're going to be getting shot at. And the simple answer to that question is, you're not going to be controlling the aircraft for very long. Essentially, the aircraft work as a consumable. A consumable that's on a 2-minute cooldown at battle start and thereafter on a 1-minute cooldown. So, technically, you could fire the main battery guns twice, then conduct an airstrike while the guns are reloading, and back to the ship in time to fire the guns again. And it works, from a practical standpoint. I'm just not convinced that what this game needed at the most right now was even more undodgeable air attacks, because if you thought it was difficult to just dodge regular aircraft carriers, good luck trying to dodge torpedoes launched at you by aircraft travelling as fast as these things. Although they don't do 550 kilometers per hour here in World of Warships. And in fact, the ones carried by the Issei in real life wouldn't have managed that 550 kilometers per hour top speed either, because of the drag caused by the floats. During the rocket-assisted takeoff portion of the flight, they will get up to 210 knots, which translates to about 390 kilometers per hour. Once the rocket engines have burnt out, they slow down to a mere 122 knots, or 226 kilometers per hour. Either way, they're still bloody quick. So if you're engaged in the thick of the action, you're probably not actually going to be controlling the aircraft directly, and therefore leaving the battleship side of things vulnerable for more than 30 seconds or so, or about how long it takes for you to reload the guns. Anyway, note here the on-screen indicator warning Jedi that his ship has been spotted, and remains so, while he's controlling the aircraft. Note that you also only get one attack at a time with these things, but it's a pretty nasty attack. Each aircraft drops 2 torpedoes. There are 4 aircraft in each strike, so that's an 8 torpedo spread. As for the individual torpedoes themselves, I can give you some numbers. They each have a maximum damage of 2,767. They have a speed of 35 knots, a range of 2.2 kilometers, and a 376 meter arming distance. So not individually impressive, but you do drop 8 of them, and Jedi has been using them to attack destroyers exclusively thus far. And in fact he has managed to successfully hit an enemy Z-31 with 2 of those torpedoes. Although, to be fair, the Z-31 was travelling in a very narrow channel at the time and had extremely restricted ability to manoeuvre. And the second torpedo drop on the Gajimada didn't score any hits. The 2 that struck the Z-31 earlier, however, did do 7,000 damage between them, so 3,500 damage per torpedo. It's not a lot, but you do drop 8 of them. Oh, and I've just realised, and I can't be bothered to go back and edit what I said earlier because it's still pertinent and it's actually going to be quite funny. The Issei in World of Warships is not equipped with the D4Y dive bombers. I mean, obviously, these are torpedo bombers, but it's not even equipped with a torpedo carrying variant of the D4Y. Those were the aircraft that the Issei was equipped with historically, but here in World of Warships, as we're about to see, the Jedi launches another strike. There we go. Aichi M6A2s. What the hell are those? Your guess is as good as mine. They never existed. Wargaming are just making shit up again so they can go as fast as they like and have them drop as many torpedoes as they like. Which is going to be bad news for that Scharnhorst. There was an M6A1 developed and built by Aichi. It was... I hope you're sitting down and strapped in for this, okay? Aichi's M6A1, which did exist, was a submarine-launched attack plane. It was developed for use in the I-400 series of submarines, but it was never a torpedo bomber. It was designed, wait for it, to be launched from Japanese submarines in order to conduct attacks on American coastal cities. It never carried torpedoes, and in any case there was never an M6A2 version as seen here in World of Warships. Once again, Wargaming are just, you know, they're just making shit up. Which is bizarre, because, well, here's the thing. The M6A1, which did exist, and one surviving example actually exists on display in the Smithsonian Museum in the USA, but the M6A2 never existed, which is the aircraft that the Issei has here in World of Warships, but the D4Y, Yokosuka's dive bomber, did exist. Thousands were manufactured, and they were faster than the M6, so why make something up in order to explain the ridiculous speed of the Issei's aircraft when something existed that the Issei was equipped with in reality that was faster than the thing that you made up? It just... I got nothing. Your guess is as good as mine. Another curious thing is that during the testing process, and I'm talking World of Warships here, not, you know, reality, there were 3 different versions of the Issei, one of which was a conventional dreadnought battleship, i.e. this ship, before conversion to a hybrid aircraft carrier. Now, I'd love to be able to say that I know what's going to happen to the other 2 versions of the Issei that were tested. Unfortunately, that would be a lie, because I don't. It'd be cool, though, although I don't think it's going to happen, if they did the same thing with the Issei as happened to the original Harikaze with the old high school fleet collaboration, because with the Harikaze, when you bought it, you had an option of 3 different hulls to take into battle, and depending on the hull that you picked, that changed the weapons that were available on the ship. So the default hull had your standard Japanese 127mm double turret mounts, very slow reloading, very slow turning, but pretty hard hitting. Or you could switch to another hull and have the Harakazi equipped with the Akazuki's 100mm guns, or switch to yet another hull and have the Harakazi fitted with the 150mm secondary gun turrets from the Midway. I'd imagine it would have been pretty cool if you could have done the same thing with the Issei here. Just select the hull that you want to take into battle, and you're either a hybrid aircraft carrier, as you see here, or you're a dreadnought battleship, or you're the interwar upgraded dreadnought battleship version. I don't think that's going to happen. Currently this version, the hybrid carrier, is the only version that exists. And if those other two versions of the Issei are going to appear, I imagine they're probably going to be sold separately. If they appear at all. Honestly, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. One thing that I can tell you is that as a hybrid aircraft carrier, the Issei does not benefit from the stupidly overpowered and hilariously broken damage control that all other aircraft carriers get. You know, the one that triggers automatically, because having to manage your consumables is too much like hard work for aircraft carrier players, and lasts an entire minute. Because of course, historically speaking, it was impossible to set an aircraft carrier on fire, wasn't it? Also, I don't know, but I suspect that it is not the case. I don't know if it is possible to launch aircraft from the Issei while that flight deck is on fire. It was on fire just a couple of minutes ago, but the aircraft were on cooldown, so yeah. I suspect not, because that's something else that aircraft carriers can do, isn't it? Launch and recover aircraft while the deck is awash in flame. What? It can in World of Warships. And World of Warships is in colour, so it must be true. Hang on, Jingles, didn't you just say that it's impossible to set fire to aircraft carriers in World of Warships? Well, no. Okay, sort of. Okay. It is possible to set an aircraft carrier on fire in World of Warships. For the 4 seconds out of every minute when the damage control isn't available, you can set the aircraft carrier on fire. But while the aircraft carrier is on fire, it is still perfectly capable of launching and recovering aircraft. Okay? Okay. Either way, I'm pretty sure the Issei cannot do that. Although it would be interesting to have that clarified. Come on, Jedi, get yourself set on fire so we can test that again. Stop showing off with the torpedoes. How are we doing? Remember, this is only tier 6. So you shouldn't expect massive damage numbers. There just aren't that many hit points going around in the first place. But he's up to 70,000 damage. And he's landed a fair few torpedoes. Remember, each torpedo only does 2,767 damage, I believe. And then, of course, you have to take into account torpedo damage reduction. But it's fair to say that the torpedoes have contributed a substantial fraction of his overall damage done so far. Because with that flight deck at the back, this is basically a tier 6 Congo. It's got the same armament. 8 356mm guns in 4 double turrets. Of course, the Congo does have a distinct speed advantage, because the Issei can, while it's not slow, it's definitely not quick. It's got a top speed of 24.5 knots. It does have substantially better armour than the Congo though, with the Congo enjoying only 19mm of fore and aft plating and a 150mm belt. The Issei has 26mm of fore and aft plating, including the flight deck and hangar, and a 199mm belt. Oh, he's launching the "we're just making this up as we go along" M6A2s again. Now at this point I'm fairly sure that Jedi really wants to find and kill that Ganyamada, who he unsuccessfully airdropped torpedoes on earlier. Now thanks to the frankly suicidal Congo over there, he's just found some deep water torpedoes by heading towards the 4 ships that were attacking him when his team has a points and cap advantage, and trying to win harder instead of doing the sensible thing and heading away from them. We know that the Ganyamada has to be around here somewhere. Jedi's aircraft have been spotted, and the only thing that would be close enough to spot him right now is the Ganyamada, who has been playing it safe and didn't turn his AA guns on until he was spotted anyway. And Jedi has very little time to react here, and realises that he's not going to make that drop, so he doesn't even try, but he has to do something with the torpedoes before he loses them, so he dumps them. Maybe he'll hit the Alba, maybe he won't. Gets back to his battleship. So they've lost Captain Suicide in the Congo, which has given the enemy team the opportunity to narrow that gap. The only 2 surviving ships are Jedi in the Issei, and that Nürnberg over there. I kind of wish that Nürnberg would stop shooting. But on the bright side, he is at least turning away from the ships that are pursuing him, which is usually a good thing in the Nürnberg, not just because it's so incredibly fragile, you want to try to stay as far away from anything shooting back at you as possible, but because it's a Nürnberg, and 2/3 of its firepower is in the back end of the ship. Oof. The issue here, of course, is that Gaggiamada. It's all well and good saying just break off, disengage and run out the clock, but that's a lot easier said than done when you have a Gaggiamada shadowing you from stealth and spotting you for an Auber, a Leon and a Bayern. And then of course there's the not inconsiderable threat posed by the Gaggiamada's deep water torpedoes. Although as long as they keep running away from the Gaggiamada, he's not going to be able to get a successful stealth torpedo drop off because the torpedoes will just run out of steam before they have a chance to catch up. But at the same time, they are kind of running out of, map to retreat to. So spotting that Gaggiamada is definitely his top priority, because he is surface spotted, and it's probably the Gaggiamada who's the one who's doing it. Oh, it could have been the Auber as well, but the Gaggiamada can't be too far from that smoke screen, which is starting to dissipate. And if he does spot the Gaggiamada, the Nürnberg can shoot at him as well, and there he is. Oh no, I think the Gaggiamada's played it smart again. I don't think he's going to be able to get those torpedoes off before the Gaggiamada gets into cover behind the island and out of harm's way. Don't forget these torpedoes, I mean, they have a bit of a kick from the aircraft dropping them, but they do only have a speed of 35 knots. And no, if he was going to hit that Gaggiamada with those torpedoes, they would have hit him by now. In fact, I think Jedi may have even dropped them just a fraction too late in his haste to ensure that he didn't drop them onto the island, and they actually did land in the water, so they probably didn't have a chance to arm. Oh well, never mind. On the bright side, he has now at least confirmed exactly where the Gaggiamada was, so now it's all about keeping the distance. Bearing in mind that he is starting to run out of map in which to keep distance from. 3 minutes left. They do still have a 300-point lead, but that lead is going to start drastically narrowing because the enemy team have just flipped the second cap. The question is that lead going to be enough? If Jedi and that Nürnberg can stay alive until the end of the match, is their current points lead going to be enough for them to win? It'd be nice if he could sink the Leon over there. That would probably guarantee a win, provided they can both, stay alive until the end of the match. And RNGesus says, nope, not this time. Aircraft to back up. Unfortunately, the Nürnberg isn't exactly helping because he will not stop shooting. And the only reason that Nürnberg is spotted at this kind of range is because he will not stop shooting. The Gaggiamada hasn't had time to catch up. Oh wait, no, he has. He's within the 12.5 kilometre surface detection range of the Nürnberg, so fair play to the Nürnberg. He was spotted anyway, he wasn't losing anything by firing back. Of course he's dead now, so Jedi's the last ship left alive on his team, which means the enemy team have closed that points gap even further. Again, the Gaggiamada played it smart. He kept his AA guns off until he was being overflown and spotted anyway, which left Jedi very little time to react and get a successful drop-off against the destroyer. Instead, he dropped his torpedoes on the Auber, who was nosing in, presenting a very, very difficult target to hit, as a result of which only one torpedo struck home. And these torpedoes only do 2,700 damage at the most. A minute and a half left. The Gaggiamada knows he's not going to get close enough in the time remaining to get a successful torpedo strike away. Jedi is repairing. So between the four of them, they now have to do around about 35,000 damage to Jedi with their guns alone in the next minute. All Jedi has to do is not die and hope that that points lead is going to be enough. And it's here where Jedi has a tough decision to make, because if he continues heading either due north or due south, he can't head due west because the map border's in the way. He's giving broadside to definitely the Bayern, definitely the Auber, potentially also the Leon. And they might do 35,000 damage to him in the time that's remaining. He can't head due west because the map border's in the way, and that leaves him no choice but to turn nose in and attempt to tank all of that incoming fire and comb the trails of any incoming torpedoes. Speaking of which, there are incoming torpedoes! Oh shit, did you see that? And you see, that of course is the danger. When you are controlling these aircraft, you're not controlling the ship. Admittedly, they're fast aircraft, you don't have to control them for long, but if in doubt, do as Jedi just did. If you think there's a torpedo threat, angle the ship against them before you take control of the aircraft. But because he read the situation correctly and took the time to do that, he survives and wins, even though he had 2 fires burning, only 9,000 health left, with both his heal and his damage control on cooldown. And that, kids, is the Issei, Imperial Japanese Navy hybrid battleship aircraft carrier. Tier 6, some kind of premium. As I said, I don't know when this is going to be going on sale. I don't know how much it's going to cost, so I can't possibly tell you whether or not it's going to be worth it. And in any case, that's the sort of decision that only you can make for yourself. What I can say is that while I'm fairly sure, even though I don't have any numbers to back this up, but I am fairly sure that what most people were not saying was, you know what this game needs more of right now? Aircraft. But despite that, the way that Wargaming have implemented the Issei does seem to work pretty well. Your mileage, of course, may vary. Let me know what you think in the comments, arguments both for and against, because that is it for today. Big thank you once again to Pointy-Head Jedi. If you want to see more of his stuff, he has been known to stream occasionally on Twitch, and I do mean very occasionally, but links down below to both his Twitch and YouTube channels. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.